And we are back. Thank you. Thank you again for being here, everybody. You are in for a very special treat tonight. I'm going to pass the mic over to my friends. Mickey Vukovic is going to be moderating our discussion tonight and getting the show started. So if our speakers want to join me on stage, if I can get our speakers on stage, that would be great. All right, Mickey, you're on. Welcome to Sioux Falls, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy, for everything. It's been such an amazing week, and this is such a fitting semi-conclusion to an Interskate weekend, and we're really all very proud to have been a part of this, and thank you so much for all your leadership and all the amazing work that behind the scenes that you can't even fathom what it takes to put on an event like this. I don't think I can either, but anyhow, thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. Tonight, we're going to experience an unprecedented presentation of the classic skate film, A Visual Sound by Stereo Skateboards. Tonight being presented for the...
Thank you.
In an unprecedented and I believe unrepeatable format with the Smithsonian Jazz Masterworks Orchestra performing the soundtrack live. It's a mashup of skateboarding, jazz music, and film that only Interskate could pull off. So we're definitely in for a treat tonight. Tonight joining me are our esteemed guests, the co-creators of Visual Sound and the co-owners and founders of Stereo Skateboards, Chris Pastras and Jason Lee. Chris is a legendary skateboarder from the East Coast, New York, New Jersey, and also a television personality for a lot of, you probably recognize him for a lot of skate events, skateboarding competitions, etc. Jason Lee needs no introduction, professional skateboarder, photographer, film and television actor, and Skateboarding Hall of Fame inductee. Also joining us is Josh Friedberg, who is the chair of the World Skate Paralympic Commission, but more important and relevant for this evening's discussion, he is the co-founder and co-creator of 411 Video Magazine, which was the dominant skateboarding video media in the 1990s, which is the era that is relevant to us tonight. So, before we watch the film, I think it's important to understand the context and a little bit of sort of the how we got here. Through the 80s, there were a lot of changes in skateboarding. Through that decade, skateboarding was really dominated by the vertical form. Skateboarding on half-pipe ramps, U-shaped ramps, in backyard swimming pools. Skateboarding that took you up a transition and launched you in the air, that kind of a thing. By the late 1980s, there was a new form of skateboarding emerging, which is when you guys came along. So Jason, can you tell us about your experience as a young skater at that time, late 80s, early 90s, and what you saw and what you experienced at that time?
Well, at that time, there weren't a lot of skate parks like there are now, thankfully. And so we really just had the streets, you know what I mean? And we had seen Mark Gonzalez and Nadas Kappas, and that was it, that we wanted to be those two guys. And so we did everything that we could to get skateboards somehow, begging our moms, you know, stealing them if we had to. And we skated religiously. Meanwhile, still following ramp skating, right? But near where I grew up, there were no ramps, there were no concrete bowls, there were no parks at all. So again, it was street skating, but we had people to look up to, like Mark Gonzalez and Nadas, and then Mike Vallely. And then I got sponsored, and then we became friends in the late 80s.
So, Jason, you came up in Los Angeles on the West Coast. Chris, your origins are on the East Coast, New York, New Jersey, which is a very different skate scene.
Yeah. I grew up right in the shadows of New York City, Central Jersey, and had the good fortune of my godbrother being a gentleman named Rodney Smith, who co-founded Shut Skates and later Zoo York. Lots of you have probably heard of Zoo York skateboards. Yes, and Rodney was, I believe, one of the first black co-owners of a skate company. That was like 85-ish or so, I want to say. And Shut, we were just this ragtag group of kids from the tri-state area. You know, it was like, and we were super diverse. It was like a Cuban, 2 Puerto Ricans, 3 black kids, you know, a couple Caucasian kids, a couple white kids, and an older, like, New York City legend named Jeremy Henderson. And we would get somewhere on the East Coast and drop a boombox, play hip-hop music, and really embodied the sort of hip-hop ethos of New York City in skateboarding. And yeah, Shut Skateboards made a huge impact on the East Coast, and then, you know, worldwide eventually. But yeah, we represented what it was to us, which was the streets and the ideas we saw in New York City and the Brooklyn banks and fighting bums and, avoiding glass in New York City streets. It made it a lot rougher. There was nothing like the early days of Southern California skating where everything was smooth and planned out.
It took a little more work.
A lot more work, yeah, and I'm grateful to wear that badge.
So by the early 90s, street skating had become the more dominant form of skateboarding. It was ubiquitous. Literally anybody, anywhere where there was pavement could skate and mimic the maneuvers that pros and the emerging pros like you guys were doing. Josh, tell us about the role of skateboarding videos at that time.
It's real easy for me to kind of pinpoint when video became important. I grew up in Topeka, Kansas, so 1985. I had rolled around on skateboards. There were skateboards laying around, but I wasn't serious about it. And a friend of mine came home from a vacation with the first Mark Gonzalez vision board and the Future Primitive video from PAL. And when I saw that video, my head exploded. Like, I was like, there is an entire world out there that I had no idea about. Before that, you know, we had seen some skateboard magazines, and we'd see pictures of people skating vert, and we had no idea how they got in the air because we had never seen it happen. So we're like, are they jumping off a ladder into the ramp? Like, how does this work? And then once you see something on video, you understand exactly how it works, and it just changed everything about skateboarding for me.
And so with 411 and your experience on the media side, what did you see in terms of what videos and skateboarding videos in particular, obviously, did for skateboarding and for kids outside of the East Coast or West Coast centers of skateboarding?
I think it was that same feeling. I had that experience, so I realized how powerful video was. And as you know, I continued skating. The way that we learned about skateboarding was by watching videos. Like that was the information. We'd look at the magazines religiously. We'd tear out the pictures we love. We'd put them on our wall, have our idols, like some of these guys sitting right here next to me, which is like mind-blowing for the kid from Kansas to sit next to Jason and Chris and Mickey, who had a huge part in the history of skateboarding as well. So when we were making 411, when we came up with the idea, it was my partner Steve Douglas and I had been editing a couple videos for New Deal skateboards and for Underworld Element skateboards at the time. And we were working on like a zine, and we were trying to take frame grabs off video and put them on paper and Xerox it, and it was taking forever. It was really hard to do in the early 90s. So we just had this epiphany of like, why don't we just leave this on video and make a magazine about skateboarding that delivered on a VHS tape? And the idea just took off. We were able to share skateboarding with the world on a regular basis in a way that hadn't been done before.
And kids then had access to see the latest skateboarding in a video format.
Moving skateboarding.
Yeah.
I remember it being really, really impactful. Visual skate, like a video magazine, was really cool.
And so for skate companies, the video was really the way a company marketed itself and shared its vision.
Yeah, we would do ads in magazines, or you would get a photo in a magazine, or you would dedicate a lot of time to make a video. You know, now with social media, it's really, really easy to put something out into the world in an hour. Right.
But at that time, you spent sometimes years putting together footage and then editing and putting out a video product that lived for many months or at least a few years as your primary marketing.
Yeah, the video was the big thing. Ads were great, and you did them regularly, you know what I mean? But the video was the sort of the pinnacle.
So,
No, I was going to say, everyone would gather around the skate shop when a new video came out, and skate shops would have these informal viewing parties, and that was where everyone learned. It was via video. There was no Instagram, like you said, no social media, so it was just literally like, oh no, the new video just came in, you know, from Blind or whomever, and you know, or Stereo, and that was the communication. That was like the primary role of communication. And it all kicked off with the Bones Brigade video show for me in Lance Mountain, 1984. My brother came home with a VHS copy of it, and Lance was just cruising from spot to spot on his board and skating curbs and skating parking lots, and that's where we all got the ideation for street skating.
so tell me about forming Stereo Skateboards, the idea behind it, and then the impetus to creating a visual sound and some of the decisions you guys had to make in forming that vision.
You want to start off, Jay?
Well, we had Blue Skateboards, which was short-lived. It lasted about a year, and it wasn't doing quite well, and you know, there were some issues with it, but it was the seed for Stereo Skateboards, which we started in 1992. Chris is the one who came up with the idea to call it Stereo. We were very much into jazz music, and we were collecting old records, and we loved all the old stereo logos that you might see on old vinyl records, and we drew a lot of inspiration from 50s, 60s design and the old records, particularly Blue Note. And we were just really into that aesthetic and that era and into jazz music. And so Stereo was born in '92. And then when you have a company, again, back then, you have to make videos. That was just a normal part of, and so it was finally time for us to make a video, and we did, and it took us about a year, and that's what a visual sound is.
Yeah, and we rode side by side. Jason was on Blind Skateboards, I was on World Industries. We stepped out with Blue Skateboards, trying to experiment with different visual ideas. One of them was jazz influence. But then I saw Blue Note had put out like a cover-bound book with all their album covers. And a friend of mine handed it to me, and my father was a jazz pianist, my father Phil, and I opened the Blue Note book, and it was like the scrapbook to my childhood. Like just Mingus, Monk, Coltrane, you know, all these things came like flushing back, and their album covers came flushing back to me, and we started playing jazz music, and then Jason and I started watching a lot of 50s and 60s documentary, first looking for jazz documentaries. And we saw how they were cut together with black and white photography and shot on 16 millimeter, and we took all that in and tried to create stereo, because at the time, skateboarding was either metal and punk rock or hip hop. You had to go either way. And we made this soulful jazz thing that was like, you know, screw the industry, man. We're just gonna flip this on its ear and do something with like all portrait ads. You know, we're gonna use an only jazz soundtrack. I was lucky enough to get a cassette tape of the Ululation band that we're gonna hear these wonderful musicians play, from a friend, Hailey Ann, who's here in the audience with her mother. John Lee Krasnow is Ululation, so round of applause to Hailey Ann and that wonderful music created by her father, John. And yeah, I ran with it, man. I was like, Jason, listen to this tape. We listened to it from start to finish. This is the soundtrack. And we took a risk, and it paid off. But it was polarizing at the time. I think now people can look back at it, and it's an art.
Right.
But skateboarding wasn't necessarily considered an art at the time, so it was challenging. It was polarizing.
And so almost 30 years later, we're here discussing it, which proves the concept that you guys were onto something unique and groundbreaking. And
Definitely wanted it to last.
yeah. And so, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time ever, you're gonna experience the Inniskate version of a skateboarding film with the John Lee Krasnow soundtrack performed live by our friends from the Smithsonian Jazz Masterworks Orchestra. Ken, take it away.
something I can help you with?
Ladies and gentlemen, the Smithsonian Jazz Masterworks Orchestra. Let's hear it. Ladies and gentlemen, to say that that was unprecedented would be an understatement. John Lee Krasnow was a composer who created his music in studio, which meant that these compositions have never been performed in public before. So this is absolutely a first. We are joined up here on stage by Leanne Krasnow, John Lee Krasnow's daughter, and Ken Kimmery, the executive director of the Smithsonian Jazz Masterworks Orchestra. Leanne, how was that, hearing your father's music like that?
I really want to thank all the musicians immensely and for doing this. I really can't explain what it means to myself and my family to hear that live. I heard it growing up in the studio and individual instruments, but never together except in the album. That was amazing. It expands his legacy. It keeps him moving forward. It pays it forward. So it was amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's wonderful to have you and your family here. What do you think your father would think of this event 30 years after the release of that film?
He would be ecstatic. I don't really know what to say other than his best friend who was on the original album, he was the bassist on the original album, is playing this live stream in Vermont right now. He was on a gig. So, like, this is just, like, he would have absolutely been ecstatic. He would have been ecstatic that it came together with my friends and people he loved and in something that was not necessarily, like, this was early 90s when I met Dune, and, like, you know, skating was not mainstream. This was completely, like, off to the side, and, like, so was jazz at that point. So to have these two things come together is absolutely amazing, ecstatic. He would have been ecstatic.
Ken, when Josh and I came up with this idea, we didn't think you'd really go through with it. Describe for us when you first heard of this concept of playing live to a film. What did you think when you first heard the music? What did you think of the idea, and how did this come together in your mind?
Well, a couple of things. One is full disclosure. I'm from Southern California, and you know, surfing and skateboarding is kind of part of my DNA. So that was a natural there to do that. And then my colleague Jeff Brody from the Lemelson Center said, "Hey Ken, what do you think about skateboarding and jazz?" And I'm always in. So what helped me, though, further understand what the vision was actually seeing the film itself and then talking both Chris and Jason about the background behind it. And a lot of these common grounds, like Blue Note, we had the fortune of being able to interview some of these legends there that actually were on these Blue Note recordings. So that, to me, had a lot more strong resonance, additional strong resonance within this made sense for us to do, and actually really wanted to pursue this. The challenge was just to take that music from the soundtrack and then be faithful to it and recreating it. And jazz, as we know, it's not something you exactly replicate. You can play the form, you play the melody, but then it takes on its own shape. And I think that's very much consistent with skateboarding, also in free skating. You know, you learn the foundation of skating, of jazz, and that's just the springboard for you then to explore and improvise and create community, which is also, you see us on stage here, we all love what we do, and so that adds to this joy of just this performance that we had here today.
Chris, Jason, what do you think?
I'm completely blown away. You sounded incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I never in my wildest dreams, and to be so welcomed from everyone here in the community, we thank you. You guys have let us in with open arms and open hearts, and to hear our, music conducted by the Smithsonian Masterworks Orchestra, mind-blowing. To have Leanne here with John Lee Krasnow's widow, mind-blowing. I never in my wildest dreams would this be happening. So thank you all for making this day really, really special.
Thank you. Jason, tell us a little bit about, in your vision, this parallel between skateboarding and jazz.
Well, first of all, it was really, really important for us to make a video that would stand out and that would fit stereo. And what stereo was at that time was an alternative, right? We knew we wanted to put out into the skateboarding world different graphics. We wanted our ads to look different and to feel different. We knew that we wanted to work with a different color palette, a different language, just a different scheme, a different schematic altogether, a different blueprint. And so when it was time to sit down and think about, you know, starting to work on a video, we knew that we wanted to use Super 8 film. We knew that we wanted to incorporate photography. We knew that we wanted it to be different and ultimately to make people want to go skate, because skateboarding is ultimately fun, it's creative expression, and that's what stereo was, what we were trying to represent. So there's no greater music to align to this vision of ours and this kind of weird, almost improvised like visual representation than jazz music.
Yeah, and I'll add there, improvisation in jazz, you know, you heard these guys talk about it. It's same as skateboarding. And a session, you know, or a contest, it's about collaboration, just like a jazz band. So there's a lot of comparisons that I saw even in 1992, 93. And Jason just further encouraged me, so we just kept pushing and pushing and stuck with the vision of jazz and skateboarding being something that we could share with the world. And at the time, skateboard videos had gotten really, really technical and difficult. It was all about huge handrails and late back foot flips and your board flipping a million times. And we really wanted to embrace our childhood and show something that was accessible, that anyone, 12, 40, whatever, could get out and you know, kind of mimic this video. We wanted it to be real and human and of the streets. So hopefully we reached that goal.
Nice. And Jason, earlier you mentioned Mark Gonzalez. I don't know if he was an influence in this video and in your guys' skating.
Yeah, Mark Gonzalez, whom I mentioned before, was sort of, and Lance Mountain, and Neil Blender, guys like that, you know, real characters. But Mark, you know, there's a video called Video Days that came out a few years before this came out, and Mark Gonzalez skates to a John Coltrane track in Video Days, and it just works so perfectly with Mark's kind of Willy Wonka mind. You never know which direction he's going to move in, and that's very much jazz. And so Mark was a big influence on us, and still is to this day. Yeah.
And the Blind Video Days film was your film debut, was it not?
My film debut was Video Days. Yeah.
Look that one up on IMDb. Ken, does this all resonate with you? This comparison, you know, skateboarding being the jazz of the street, in a sense.
Yeah, I'd say so in a very obvious way. As one is, of course, we talk about improvisation. We talk about learning the roots of your history, using that as a springboard going forward. But I think even more that resonates even today more strongly is this kind of rebirth. Youth is coming into this in a way that we're seeing on both sides, both skating, skateboarding, and also jazz. That really is the future of this and carrying it forward, and the diversity of it too, which is absolutely phenomenal. So we're seeing on both sides of the equation where this is not something of us old folks, but actually there's a younger generation that finds this as part of their identity and want to be involved and move it forward. And that's what I'm seeing also in the jazz world also.
Well, Ken, we put the dare to you. You and your colleagues fell for it, and you nailed it.
Absolutely nailed it.
Yes, thank you, Ken. 110%.
So, Chris, Jason, any parting thoughts tonight as we conclude this amazing presentation?
Just another massive thank you, Ken and Mickey and Josh. Incredible. I mean, that video came out 28 years ago. I'm old for sure. No, it's just, you know, it's incredible to know that it's still there and it's alive in some capacity, and people respond to it. You know what I mean? And that it's inspired people and that it served that purpose of trying to make skateboarding fun and something very, very creative. And so I think we succeeded, I hope anyway, and to see everybody respond so positively is really, really inspiring all these years later.
And for me, yeah, that was amazing, Jason and Ken. Great words. And I want to just thank the people of Sioux Falls again. Really, thank you so much for embracing us. I know there's some non-skaters in the audience, and for you guys to come out and give us your full attention, I really appreciate that. Ultimately, skateboarding, you know, it's being fit into this box as an athletic discipline with the Olympics, which is amazing. We have our own Olympian Bryce Wettstein here, amazing skateboarder. Yeah, Bryce. I call her the Pied Piper because the kids follow her everywhere. She's got such positive energy. And she really embraces the skateboarding for me, even though she's in a competitive field. It's her art, it's her music, it's her creativity. She plays the ukulele, she draws. So to me, that's the roots of skateboarding. It's creativity.
That's right.
More than athleticism. And it's also about community. That's a huge thing. You know, the skateboarders were our extended family. We came from broken homes, and skateboarding found us, embraced us, and gave us this life. And thank God, and thank you all for being here.
Nice, Chris, nice.
Well, that creativity was clear in the film as we watched it again after all these years, and it's as vivid and as relevant today, I think, as it was in 1994, and it was certainly brought to life thanks to the Smithsonian Jazz Masterworks Orchestra. Ken, thank you again, and everybody at the orchestra, and thank you guys, and thanks to all of our guests for joining us this evening, and thanks to all of you for coming and experiencing this amazing, amazing event. As I mentioned, unprecedented and unrepeatable. Good night, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys so much. Thanks for letting us be a part of that. We have a very special opportunity now. We're going to change over the stage and get ready for a special presentation by the Smithsonian Institution. So please stay with us. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We get to watch some objects actually being accepted to go into the Smithsonian Institution. So Sioux Falls becomes a piece of that history. So hang tight, we're just gonna move some furniture and we'll be right back with you.
All right, good evening, Sioux Falls. Apologize for my voice, it's been a bit of a week. My name is Jeffrey Brody. I am a historian and the Deputy Director of the Smithsonian's Lemelson Center for the Study of Invention and Innovation. I appreciate that. I hope you'll give me some grace if I look at my notes from time to time. Like I said, it's been a hard week for the Innescape team, and we've really enjoyed it. Tonight, we have a very special opportunity to welcome new objects to come into the Smithsonian National Collections. The National Museum of American History has 1.7 million objects in its collection that document the breadth and depth of the American experience. Tonight, we're going to add a few more. When we started Innescape in 2013, the collection of objects from skate culture was deemed incredibly important. We wanted the history of skateboarding and its accomplishments to be recorded as part of the national experience. We celebrate those inventors in the skating community who have advanced their community through invention. And since 2013, we've collected from Tony Hawk, from Rodney Mullen, from Christian Hosoi, from Paul Schmidt and Oscar Loretto, who are here tonight, from Patty McGee, Cindy Whitehead, Laura Thornhill, Robin Logan, and countless others. And it's really essential that these objects are collected and included in the national experience. So it's easy to say that we should collect objects. That's kind of a no-brainer. A more difficult question is, why do we collect them? What do we want the public to take away from these collections? And I'm going to speak to this personally, but I think the objects that we have in the collections have kind of special mystical powers. And go with me on this. When you look at an object in a museum, it has the ability to transport you to any time in history, allow you to engage with new people, and explore new cultures. But this doesn't happen without your involvement. An object in an exhibit case is nothing more than just sitting there by itself. We need you to connect with it. So the experience and the reason why we collect objects is so that we can form connections between you and other people. And what you need to do is take your experiences, your personal experiences, and find how they connect to the objects that you're looking at in the case. What do those connections tell you about your daily life, and what does it tell about your life and how you will navigate it in the future? So this is a little bit of a vague kind of concept. So what I want to do tonight, which is special and unique, by the powers invested in me by the Smithsonian Institution, I am going to transform all of you right now in this place at this time into museum curators and historians. So what I want you to do is think about one object from your life. It can be from your best experience or your worst, from an event, from something that something that's very important to you, reflects an accomplishment. It can be anything. But just think about that for a second. I'll give you a moment. Think about how you would describe that object to somebody sitting next to you right now. How would you tell that story? How does it represent you? Okay? Think about that for a second. But now I want you to think about that same object you selected. And imagine 150 years from now, here in Sioux Falls, when we're celebrating the 150th annual Innescape Festival. And the organizers of that festival have decided to install an exhibit of all of those objects you just thought about all around this lawn. What are the people of Sioux Falls 150 years from now going to take away and learn from those objects? What kinds of connections are they going to make with you? What will your object tell them about your experience, the community of Sioux Falls, and how will your object help them navigate their lives 150 years from now? Think about that for a minute. So while you don't have to give your answers out loud, these are the very questions that we asked Jason and Chris when we started talking about the object donation. So in our discussions, we talked with Jason and Chris, and we asked them, what are the objects that you feel represent your personal experience, that talk about your contributions to skate culture, and that 100 years from now will help people in that time, understand their lives in a new way? So fortunately, I don't have to answer that question. I'm going to turn to Chris and Jason. They're going to talk about the objects that they are donating to the Smithsonian tonight, and we'll start.
Hello again. Chris, you want to talk about the poster, or do you want me to? One of the objects that we're donating on behalf of Stereo to the Smithsonian is an original a visual sound poster. The video that everybody just saw.
Straight out of 1994. There is probably not another one existent in the world.
This might be the only one in existence. And up until a couple weeks ago, it was on Chris's wall in his living room.
For decades.
And then a DVD box set of the 2 stereo videos. And then Chris. Oh, okay. Oh, we got to do one at a time.
Do the gloves.
Okay. So these actually represent 3 different donations, one from Stereo Skateboards, one from Chris, and one from Jason. So for each of these, when they describe them, we're actually going to be signing the deeds of gifts that formally transform ownership from Stereo Skateboards, in this case, to the Smithsonian Institution. So we're going to do that right in front of y'all.
All
so,
right.
who's signing this one?
I got you.
There's 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What is today? 7/9?
7/9 now. Thank you.
All right, sir.
Let's do 2 copies.
Thank you, Jeff, for immortalizing this poster. It's been hanging on my wall for almost 30 years.
Thank you. So you may have noticed at this point, as we're beginning to sign the deeds of gifts, that I have put on gloves. Because at this point, these objects that we just discussed are now part of the Smithsonian's national collections, and they'll be treated as such in perpetuity, forever.
Bye, buddy. My wall's going to miss you.
Okay. All right. Chris?
Okay, I talked about my upbringing and being from New York and New Jersey, New York area, tri-state area. And this is a Schutt skateboard. I talked about Schutt. It was the precursor to Zoo York, and my brother founded it. This is a handmade, hand-cut board that they made in his garage. It's broken, but it was really meaningful to me. It's got the Dogtown sticker on there, and Dogtown was a big inspiration for us. It's got some Rip Grip, which we used to use only in the 80s to help grip your board. And then the reason this resonated and was so important to me, my mother was very political. She still is. She works the polls. She's constantly making sure I'm voting. You know, she's a supporter of a lot of things. Just, you know, yeah, she's beautiful. Judy Pastrus, she's a saint. She's seriously a saint. And so this says Jesse Jackson, 88. When Jesse Jackson ran for president, you know when they try to tell LeBron to shut up and dribble? I basically wouldn't shut up and dribble. So I was always trying to have a political message. I was always supportive of progression, inclusion, and yeah, and I let my friends know loud and proud I was a black man and I wanted Jesse Jackson to win. So yeah, to donate this, I mean, it's got a lot of my favorite moments of skateboarding. Tom Groholski from New Jersey, an original like vert ripper, one of our first pros coming out of New Jersey. Neil Blender, one of the artists Jason touched on. Yeah, so this means a ton to me, and it was really hard for me to let go of this board, but there's no better home than the Smithsonian. So thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, Chris. Okay. That's the poster. All right, I'll try to hold it if I can. I don't think I can. Can everybody hear me? Okay. This is the April 1989 issue of Transworld Skateboarding magazine. And inside it, somehow, I got a picture in the magazine. So this was actually just a few months, I think, before I turned pro. And what made this so exciting is that the great Lance Mountain, legendary pro skater, he shot this photo. And I could not believe that I got a photo in this magazine shot by the great Lance Mountain. And it was, you know, the kind of thing that you very, very excitedly show your mom and your hands are shaking kind of thing. Absolute honor for me because Lance was such a hero of ours. So I was probably 18 here, and again, this was shortly before I turned pro. And because it was so exciting, I kept that board all those years. So this is the board that I'm riding in that picture. 30 some odd years ago. And yeah, this is what skateboards looked like in 1988, 89. They weren't really easy to ride, but I guess we made do. And I too have a Dogtown sticker on my board as well. And Rip Grip as well. Yeah. So this is the board that I was riding when Lance Mountain shot that photo, and it means so much to me that I kept it all these decades, literally decades, and I'm absolutely honored to donate this. Thank you so much. Second thoughts for sure.
All right, so obviously Chris and Jason. Oh, put your gloves on. It's a museum object now. Obviously, we are so grateful and so excited that these objects are being donated and are now part of the national collections. Chris and Jason, anytime you want to come by and see them, just let me know. But, you know, objects have really interesting histories, and we didn't, you know, Chris and Jason didn't talk about everything that was related to these skate decks. But just know this, from now on, when we talk about these objects, what we call the provenance, all the details that go into the history of these objects, now include you and Sioux Falls and Inniskate in this weekend, because this is when we collected them. So, with that, we're going to conclude the ceremony. Jason, I invite you to pick up your deck again, and we can probably take a picture.
To everybody who organized this amazing weekend, a huge, huge round of applause, please. Incredible, incredible town, by the way. I don't think I've ever been here, but I love it. Thank you for the hospitality. Again, this has been just an incredible honor, and we've got some boards here that we'd like to give to the organizers. Yeah, Jeff. There's a signed stereo board for you.
These boards represent our 30-year anniversary, so it's really important for us to hand these off. What a marker, this event, for our 30-year anniversary. So once again, thank you.
Kyle, thank you so very much. Here's the 30-year stereo board.
Round of
Thank you
applause
very
for
much.
Kyle. And that is for all the hard work he does on the Pine Ridge Reservation. Let's give him another round of applause. He does a ton for the community and the native culture, so thank you, Kyle. Thank you, brother.
Ken, please come up here and take this board. Thank you
Smithsonian
again so
Masterworks
very much.
Orchestra.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The band sounded absolutely incredible.
Truly
Thank you so very,
Masterworks.
very much. Nancy, you absolutely worked your butt off.
She
Where
crushed
are
it.
you? Nancy,
Thank you.
this is for you. Executive Director, Nancy Halverson, thank you so very much. Amazing, amazing work to everybody who organized this incredible weekend, and again to everybody who came. Thank you so much.
Yes. Have a wonderful night. Have a great time out here. Be safe. Love each other. And hopefully you take something away from the skateboard community panel. And we love you all. Thank you.
Okay, they want me to take a microphone after I'm crying. So, what an incredible once-in-a-lifetime experience to be here with these amazing people. Thank you guys all for what you have brought to our community. You know, so many times here in Sioux Falls, we always think we're just this little town and nobody's paying attention to us. But y'all, they're here. They showed up for you. They showed up. And you showed up for them. I can't thank you enough for all the partners who have made this possible. What a beautiful, beautiful event. You know, I want to ask a favor if y'all don't mind. There were about 85 people involved in setting this up. So I'm going to ask you all to clear the dance floor, and we're going to invite all of the people who have been working on this to come front and center because we want to take a big group picture. So if you don't mind giving us a little space so we can get kind of the Escape Planning Committee in from all of our different community partners. We want to thank the Sioux Falls Skate Park Association for building all of those incredible ramps that you all have been riding on all weekend. We want to thank our friends from Rayfield's Gallery for the beautiful art show, and Alex for making that happen, and Aaron, thank you so much. Jerry Cook, thank you for that. We want to thank Joe Batchelor and the whole crew at downtown Sioux Falls for making our skate village happen. I, of course, have to thank the Levitt team that have worked countless hours to make this happen, and the Sioux Falls Arts Council and Kellen and her team that have showed up to make this happen. So thank you all. Laura and Roseanne are trying to wrangle the cats to make this picture happen. So folks in the picture, if you'll face forward and squish in, we'll get this done pretty quickly. Okay, everybody in the picture, would you look at Olivia? She's on the chair in the middle of the lawn. And on the count of 3, we're going to yell in a skate. Ready? 1, 2. Oh, ready? Oh, thank you, sir. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. She got it. She got it. All right. Thank you all so much. All right. Now, back to business for the Levitt. We got a show to put on here. All right. All right. Here's the deal, folks. Whoops. Sorry about that. We have a fantastic band ready to come on stage for you. We're going to change over. So you've got a little bit of time now. If you want to grab something to eat, grab a drink. The band will come on at 8 p.m., so you've got a little bit of time. Go get something to eat, get something to drink. We're going to change over this stage, and we'll be back with Meet Me at the Altar.